Big changes. Small steps. Big changes. Small steps. Big changes. Small steps. Big changes.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Amy McDonald, and I'm the Research and Learning Officer here at Small Steps, Big Changes. We're really pleased you're all able to join us this morning for our workforce briefing event around the Healthy Start scheme. We've put this session together really to support the workforce with their knowledge around the Healthy Start scheme, also to make you aware of some recent and some upcoming changes around the scheme that we think it's really important for family-facing workforce to be aware of. Looking at the registration list, we're really delighted to see such a wide workforce represented. Joining me today for the briefing, we have David Johns, who's a consultant in public health here in Nottingham. We have Hayley Ellis, who's the Workforce Learning and Development Officer at Small Steps, Big Changes. We have Nicol, who is Marketing and Comms at Small Steps, Big Changes. And we have a colleague from County, Kate Whitaker, who's been leading the Healthy Start programme in County for a number of months and is an additional expert if we get any tricky questions coming in. For those of you that aren't familiar with our webinars, we try and make them as interactive as possible, and there's sort of no difference today. At the bottom of your screen, you should have the question and answer box and also a comments box, and we would really encourage you throughout the presentation to post any questions for the panel that you'd like answered, and also sort of any comments or reflections. I can see already, which is fab, we've got some people introducing yourself in the comment bar, and that's great. It's really good to see who's in the virtual room. If there's any technical issues, which often sort of happens with sort of these webinars, we've got in the background Kate and Claire from Beacon House, and if you just pop a note in the chat bar, they'll be able to support you with that. So we might just now turn to David to sort of introduce a little bit around the Healthy Start scheme. And David, the Healthy Start scheme isn't new, is it? It's sort of been around a while, but I just wonder if you'd be able to cover for us, please, the sort of background to the scheme and how it supports public health overall.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Amy. Yeah, so thanks very much for having me this morning. So thought I'd give a bit of an introduction to the Healthy Start scheme, why it exists and why it's important for us here in Nottingham. So I thought I'd start with my first slide, if we can just move on to the next one, just to highlight that contrast. And unfortunately I haven't chopped off the bottom of this graph, but along the bottom what we have is the proportion of adults who meet their 5-a-day recommendation, and on the left hand side we've got levels of deprivation from those from our poorest households at the top down to our most affluent households at the bottom, and this is data for the whole of England. But this shows that stark contrast that we have in terms of individuals in the UK from the highest socioeconomic positions are 80% more likely than those from our lower socioeconomic groups to eat the recommended amount of fruit and vegetables a day. And the cost of a healthy diet is proposed as a key factor among that complex and multifaceted range of factors that influence diet, but cost is a key factor in our dietary choices. And moreover, in recent years, what we've seen is that price of fruit and vegetables increase disproportionately relative to those nutrient-poor and energy-dense foods. So this gradient that we see here, this contrast between most deprived and least deprived communities has been growing. If we can move on to the next slide. So I thought I'd run through some of the key vitamin deficiencies that Healthy Start considers, and the reasons behind why they are so important for the Healthy Start scheme. So starting off with vitamin A, which also known as retinol. This is used to help your body's natural defense against illness and infection, help with vision in poor lighting, and keeping the skin and parts of the body healthy. And having large amounts of vitamin A can be just to cover this figure, 8% of children under 5 in the UK don't have enough vitamin A in their diet. And again, that shows that stark contrast, both of where we are now in terms of deficiencies across all of our population, but also a gradient again in terms of that difference between those children living in our poorest families versus those living in our more affluent areas. Vitamin A, as we'll come on to later, is included in the children's vitamins, but not in the vitamins for pregnant women, and that's largely because excessive amounts of vitamin A can harm an unborn child. So pregnant women aren't advised to, for example, eat liver or liver products such as pate, and just because they're very high in vitamin A. So what you'll see is the children's vitamins differ slightly to that of the women's vitamins pack, and these are some of the reasons why those differences occur. We move on to the next one, thank you. So vitamin C, ascorbic acid, helps protect the cells and keep them healthy, maintain healthy skin, blood vessels, bones, and it helps with sort of wound healing. And again, this in particular is one of those vitamins where lower income groups have a significantly high levels of vitamin C deficiency, or lower levels of vitamin C in their diet than those families in our more affluent areas. And this is all part of the idea of what Healthy Start is trying to address. It's trying to address some of that balance and try to reduce that gradient that we saw in terms of that fruit and those number of people meeting their daily fruit and vegetable intake. So again, another really important area to be included within the Healthy Start. Moving on to vitamin D, which is as we're probably aware, essential for building strong bones, amongst other things. And the national survey data shows that evidence of low vitamin D status among all ages and genders, especially in the winter months in the UK. But in particular, pregnant and breastfeeding women and young children are at the greatest risk of vitamin D deficiency, along with some of our ethnic minority populations as well. Now, although it's still rare, rickets has been seen to sort of be re-emerging slightly among some children in the UK, and it's still rare, and obviously it's not something that has shot up drastically, but that rise in vitamin D deficiency amongst children has led to some of that cause for concern about around vitamin D. So way back in 2007, we had the Scientific Advisory Committee on Nutrition recommending that people should be offered vitamin D supplements if they're pregnant or breastfeeding, breastfed babies from the age of 6 months, formula-fed babies who are getting less than 500 mils of formula, and all children aged 1 to 4 years of age. And so in 2012, the UK Chief Medical Officer recommended that all pregnant and breastfeeding women and infants and children aged 6 months to 5 years take a daily supplement of vitamin D. So that's another important factor that's within a Healthy Start of vitamins. Most people, other than people who are or could become pregnant, should be able to attain sufficient folate in their diet by eating plenty of vegetables, fruit, beans, and whole grains, which are all naturally high in folate. But if you don't get enough folic acid before and during pregnancy, the children that are born are at a higher risk of neural tube defects, which are obviously a serious birth defect. And so it's obviously recommended that pregnant women take folic acid supplements, and that's again part of the Healthy Start approach, to include that within there to increase that uptake of that vitamin. So the Healthy Start scheme, we can move on to the next slide, was started back in 2006, taking over from previously called different schemes of different formats. And obviously we're talking today about some of the recent changes in terms of the moving to a digital Healthy Start scheme. In many respects, there's in terms of the amount of money that's the vouchers have been available hasn't changed a great deal in more recent years until the last year. And many of the things that you see here have remained fairly consistent. But the Healthy Start scheme kind of comes in two parts, really. The first being the ability to contribute towards fruit and vegetable and cow's milk shopping, as well as infant formula. I think it's important just to clarify that's stage 1 formula rather than the follow-up formulas. So again, picking out all those fruits and vegetables that we saw that are at the moment having a lower consumption amongst our more deprived communities, and trying to act to increase that fruit and vegetable consumption. The second part is, if we move on to the next slide, the vitamins supplements. And so it comes in, again, this bit comes in two parts, that of the children's vitamin drops, as well as the vitamin drops for pregnant women on the right hand side. So you can see they're slightly different composition in terms of the children's vitamins containing vitamin A, and the vitamins for women containing the folic acid, based on those recommendations that I mentioned. And again, I think some of the key things to mention is that if you're breastfeeding a baby, that you probably assume that breast milk is the perfect food, complete with every vitamin your newborn can need, and breastfeeding and breast milk is obviously an ideal food for newborns, but it doesn't contain enough of two crucial nutrients of vitamin D and iron, which is where these supplements come in. But similarly, that infant formula milk, if a baby is being formula fed, does have some supplementation already, and therefore if a child is having more than 500 mils of that first infant formula, they're not recommended to have these vitamins on top of that supplementation through their formula milk. Now the Healthy Start vitamin scheme, it has a slightly less frequent uptake of this vitamin offer than the offer that we just saw in terms of fruits and vegetables. And some of the reasons for that are thought to be around that lack of awareness of the importance of vitamins among women and healthcare professionals, and some of the difficulties in obtaining supplies, or the complicated sort of assessment process. And so hopefully the digital offer will simplify some of that, and we'll hear in a little bit about how you can access, how we can point people in the right direction to access vitamins within Nottingham City. So just wanted to quickly focus on some of the work around in Nottingham on the Healthy Start scheme. So this obviously includes data from back in June 2021 all the way through to January 2022. The data here, it looks as though we've seen a significant decrease in the number of families taking up the Healthy Start scheme. However, we're in a bit of a phase at the moment where it's a bit of a black hole in a sense in terms of data. We're running a little bit blind in some respect. What we do know is that historically in Nottingham City, we've been doing fairly well in terms of our uptake of the Healthy Start scheme in comparison to the East Midlands and the national uptake, as you can see from back in June, where we had a 70% uptake versus nearer to 60% in East Midlands and nationally. Excuse me. But that recent drop, you know, some of it may be a cause for concern in terms of reduction in uptake, but also what we don't have at the moment added to this is the number of individuals taking up the digital office. This is just those with the traditional paper voucher scheme. So during this transition phase, we're still waiting on the national team to provide us some of that data. So historically, I think that's the main thing that's important for us, is that in Nottingham City, we have a good track record of supporting families and helping them access the Healthy Start scheme, and I think that's important to continue as we transition into the new digital offer. And I just wanted to end with two final slides on why this area is important. I think I started off with that diagram around the inequalities in terms of healthy food intake, and just ending with two slides which are around the global burden of disease. So these look at the number of disability years that are experienced by our population, and what are the risk factors that contribute to those years of ill health. And in adults of all ages, we can see that dietary risks are the fourth highest in terms of contribution towards disability years within Nottingham City. If we move on to the next slide, which looks at just those who are under 5, we can see that child and maternal malnutrition is the highest contributor towards disability adjusted life years per 100,000 in our population in Nottingham. And this is something that is common across the rest of England as well. It's not unique in Nottingham, but it just highlights that important role that child and maternal malnutrition plays in the health of our population and in getting that best start for our children. So I'll stop there. Thank you, Amy.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much, David. I think that's really provided a good context and background, and really makes a point on why kind of making sure that across Nottingham, we're making sure that our families are signing up to the scheme and sort of supporting them with early health. What I'd like to do now is turn to Hayley, who will talk us through a little bit more about the Healthy Start scheme and really some of the sort of key changes that are coming out that people need to be aware of. So, Hayley.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. So good morning, everybody. So my presentation is going to provide the overview of Healthy Start, but more information on that transition to the digital scheme. So next slide, please. So the former voucher version of the Healthy Start scheme is going to cease to operate in March this year. So all current beneficiaries, so all people who've been claiming the Healthy Start scheme have been informed via a letter and invited to reapply to the scheme. And any subsequent people who haven't yet applied will be given a second opportunity, so that a second reminder letter will go out. And then all new applications will be made via the Healthy Start website. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of a poll, just to test to see if you know who is eligible for Healthy Start. So just next slide, please. So I don't know what happened to the poll there. We're supposed to do a little bit of a quiz. Anyway, who is eligible? So the families that are eligible for the scheme are pregnant women and families who have children under 4 years old. So they are, oh, here's the poll. Now we can see the answers. Don't look at this slide. So who is eligible for Healthy Start? Is it A, all pregnant women? Is it B, all families with young children less than 4? Is it C, pregnant women with families of young children less than 4 in receipt of certain benefits? Or is it D, pregnant women under the age of 18? Okay, have you all had the opportunity to vote? Yep, perfect. So I don't know if we can see the results. Yeah. So the answers actually are C and D. So it's pregnant women with families of young children less than 4 on certain benefits, and pregnant women under the age of 18. So if we just look at that slide, it's families with specific benefits that include the income support, job seekers allowance, income related employment and support allowance, child tax credit with a family income of 16,190 or less per year, pension credit, and universal credit with no earned income or total earned income of £408 or less per month for the family. And like I said, it's pregnant women as well under the age of 18 are also eligible, but they don't need to be in receipt of any of those above benefits. We would just kind of reinforce as well that families with no recourse to public funds may meet the criteria for the temporary extension of the Healthy Start scheme if they've got a British child under the age of 4, their take-home pay is less than £408 per month, or they're excluded from claiming funds as a consequence of their immigration status. So there is the link just on the slide there, but we just recommend that all families should kind of visit the Healthy Start website just to check their eligibility. Next slide, please. So how to apply? There's no paper forms anymore, so it's all online. You just follow the Healthy Start website. There is an interpreter service available, but it's worth noting that the service is an automated call that is in English, and there are quite a few steps before you get to option 3. You can't just select option 3 immediately. So eligible families for whom English isn't a first language can often be less likely to apply to the scheme, and they might benefit for some targeted efforts just to increase their awareness of the scheme alongside with some additional support to complete the online application. So when people do apply, they will need to have their name, address, the date of birth, national insurance number, the baby's due date, or the child's date of birth. Next slide, please. So when people have been reapplying to the digital scheme, there has been some instances where the application has been declined, and this has been a data mismatch. So it's worth just suggesting that people might just check their details held by HMRC. So depending on what their details are held by the benefits agency, they need to match exactly when you reapply onto the Healthy Start scheme. So say, for example, a person was called Emma Louise Smith through HMRC, and when you're reapply and you only put Emma Smith, that will be an example of a data mismatch, and unfortunately that application will be declined. Next slide, please. So when activating the card will come preloaded with the first instalment already on that card. They need to ring the number that's just on the slide, which is on the Healthy Start website, just to activate that card. Again, there is the option for the interpreter service. When they do make the call, they will need to have ready their Healthy Start card, their date of birth, and the letter that came with the card, because on that letter it's got the client ID at the top that they will need. Next slide, please. So just another poll, if we could just bring that poll up, is how much money do you get per week when your child is 2 years old? So is it A, £8.50, is it B, £4.25, is it C, £6.15, or is it D, £3.60? So we've all had a chance to vote. Oh, knowledge is quite good. So like I said, the card value is automatically topped up every 4 weeks, but the the amount that's put onto the card will depend. So from the 10th week of pregnancy, you can apply to the scheme and you would get £4.25 per week from the 10th week of pregnancy. You get £8.50 per week for children aged from birth to 1, and you get £4.25, which is the correct answer for the poll, per week for children aged between 1 and 4. Next slide, please. Oh, another test. So what can you not buy with your Healthy Start card? So I think David's presentation might have given this answer already. We all had a chance to vote. Oh, excellent. You were all listening. So what can you buy? You can buy fruit, vegetables and pulses. So that includes fresh, frozen or tinned, whole, chopped, packed or loose, fruit in fruit juice or fruit and vegetables in water, plain cow's milk, infant formula, but obviously that doesn't include the follow-on formula. Next slide, please. So where can you buy fresh cow's milk with the Healthy Start card? We all had a chance to answer that question. Perfect. Yeah, it's C. So you can use the Healthy Start card anywhere that accepts MasterCard, but also it has to sell obviously the items covered by the scheme. So this includes all of your supermarkets, your convenience stores, pharmacies, market stalls, newsagents, butchers and petrol stations. So the MasterCard symbol is normally shown on the shop door or at the till. Next slide, please. So how to use the card. So the first transaction, like you would use a debit card, obviously it needs to be activated first, but the first transaction is using that PIN, and then subsequent payments can be made contactless, and that can be made contactless up to £45. Payments higher than what is actually on the card will not be accepted, so that payment will be declined. You can split the payments. So when you get to the checkout, you just need to let the cashier know that you will want to split the payments. So your first part of your shopping would go through with the Healthy Start card, and then all of the rest of the shopping you can make either with cash or using a debit card. But if you can also do that at the self-checkout, but the first payment would again be used using the Healthy Start card, and then the second payment is only used by cash. If we could just go back, please. Refunds as well. If you ever need, for whatever reason, if the person needed to take something back to the shop, payments can be refunded back to the card, just as the same way it would any debit card. Next slide, please. So there have been instances where a card has been declined, and these examples of examples of what's happened. So people have tried to use the card before it's actually been activated. They could be trying to do a contactless payment, but obviously the first transaction must be used using their PIN. This is a quite interesting one actually. Contactless can be used up to 4 times in a row, and then the 5th time that transaction will be declined, but you wouldn't know that it would actually be declined. It wouldn't ask you to say, oh, we need to use your PIN, but that's what would need to happen, and that is just for security reasons. There could be insufficient funds on the card, and that could be why it's being declined. Sorry. So if you can go to an ATM to check the balance, just like you would a debit card, or you can go by the telephone number that's just on the slide that's also available on the Healthy Start website. Previously, I think vouchers have been swiped, and I know some beneficiaries have tried to swipe the card as they would a voucher. Obviously that doesn't work, and that will be why it's been declined as well. You need to use it as you would a debit card, so either contactless or chip and pin. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Hayley, for that. I think that's sort of really useful. I think you've sort of laid out there, I think, really why it's important for us as a workforce at the moment to be supporting families, because I think that transition across to the digital scheme is going to be for some problematic, and I think the more that we sort of know about it, the more we can support our families. And I guess something else that we're really keen to do is we know that those that are currently receiving the scheme will need to reapply, but we also know that there are a lot of families that are missing out. So what can we all be doing to sort of make sure that all of those families that are eligible are accessing the scheme? And so, Jen, if I can kind of turn to you really to run us through the support and resources that are available for workforce in terms of promoting the scheme.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. So today we've heard about the importance of the Healthy Start scheme and how it supports family and children's health. Local data shows us that around 3 out of 10 eligible households in Nottingham aren't signed up for the scheme. So what can we do to help promote the Healthy Start scheme to local families? I'm going to do my best to give you some suggestions today. I'm going to tell you about the free resources that are out there to support you. I'll also tell you about further training to help you develop your knowledge. So most of the resources I'll talk about are available to download from the NHS Resources website, or they're available from the Healthy Start website. But at SSBC, we've tried to make things a little bit easier for you. We've created a new page on the SSBC website for important documents relating to Healthy Start. The web link to this page is at the bottom of this slide, and it will be posted in the chat box. But you can also get there from our homepage by clicking the Knowledge Hub at the top of the page, resources, and you'll find Healthy Start at the top of the page. So this is resources that we know are helpful for workforce. We'll do our best to update this page with new resources when they become available. But if you know of anything or find anything additional that you found to be useful, please feel free to send it to us and we'll add it on. Next slide. The first port of call for anyone wanting to learn about the scheme is the guidebook that's produced by Healthy Start. It is 15 pages long, but it's broken down into really helpful sections and it's quite easy to navigate. It's the everything you need to know guide to Healthy Start. It includes a flowchart showing all the stages from application to using the card in the shop, and this can be quite useful to show to potential applicants. And we'd encourage you to download one for yourself and have a read or get a reference copy for your team. You can download it from the NHS Resources website, but we've included a copy on the SSBC website in that resources section. So the link to that from the NHS Resources page is in the chat box. Next slide. Healthy Start have also produced 2 social media toolkits. One of them is aimed at telling people who are already registered that they need to transition over to the digital card scheme, which is the scheme that Hayley's just described. And the other one is for families who are eligible for Healthy Start but not yet signed up. You can download both of these toolkits from the NHS Resources website, but again, we've added them to our website too. If you're pressed for time, or if you don't have a marketing bod on your team, Healthy Start have made it really easy for you too. In the toolkits are suggested posts for Facebook and Twitter, so you literally can just copy and paste them and tweet them with the supplied image and text if you wish. SSBC will regularly post about Healthy Start on Facebook too, so you can always just share our posts. And there are lots of other ways that you can help get the word out over social media. Next slide. There are lots of useful websites out there that talk about Healthy Start, and sometimes it might seem that there are too many, giving too much information. But the most up-to-date information is, of course, going to be on the Healthy Start website, and the link is just there for you. It has all of the eligibility criteria and information about how to apply, where you can shop. But some users we've found might find the information on this page quite dense and possibly also quite difficult to read, understand, and navigate. So we've tried to simplify all of the need to know information for families onto another page on our website. The link is towards the bottom of this slide and it's also in the chat box. We've broken down the information from the Healthy Start website into bite-sized chunks and simplified the language wherever possible. There's also a link on that page that takes you to the online form on the Healthy Start page. So families can get all the information they need to know on that one page, and they can also get the link direct to the online application form. Next slide. Another useful website is provided by Sustain. It's an eligibility calculator, and it's really useful if you have a client or service user who might be daunted by lots of text on a page or lots of written criteria. It's also a useful engagement tool for you to use if you're speaking in person to a service user. It's a bit more engaging than the list of bullet points that's supplied by the Healthy Start website. The eligibility calculator asks 5 simple questions, and you have to give yes or no answers to each. It's no more complicated than that. At the end, it tells you if it thinks that you might be eligible for a Healthy Start or not. It takes about 1 to 2 minutes to complete. You can support a service user in doing it. And at the end, it will direct you, if it thinks you're eligible, to the apply page on the Healthy Start website. So it's just another way of getting people through the eligibility criteria and to the application stage. Next slide. If, while you're supporting families, you have any questions or queries, you can contact the Healthy Start team directly. They have 2 main hotlines. One is for card queries, so that's lost, stolen cards or forgotten pins. And one is for general inquiries. The general inquiries one also has an option for translation support. So if you press 3, as Hayley described earlier, you'll be put through to the language support team. It's also worth pointing out that these are 0300 numbers. So on most networks, the caller will be charged. Obviously, the Healthy Start team is very busy at the moment, and we know from anecdotal evidence that there can be 30 minutes or more wait to speak to an advisor. If it's possible for you and your organisation, we'd really encourage you to make the call using your work line so that the service user doesn't have to pay the charge, although we appreciate that this isn't always practical or possible. This information, so this contact information, might change from time to time. It's always best to check the Healthy Start website for the latest information about their hotline opening hours, and you can do that by visiting the website at the bottom of this slide. Next slide. The reality is that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of professionals up and down. Oh, I think this is the wrong slide. I need slide 8. Okay, the reality is there are hundreds, if not thousands, of professionals up and down the country supporting families to access and navigate the Healthy Start scheme. Between them and between you, there's a huge amount of experience and knowledge. Sustain have also set up an email forum for all professionals who work with families who might be eligible. It's a way for you to ask questions, share resources and news, and get support. You can join by sending an email, there we go, just in time, to the first address on this slide. And once you're set up, you can send any questions about Healthy Start to the second email address on this slide. Your question will be sent to everybody that signed up for the forum, and we've had a really good experience of using it. In most cases, we found that someone with the answer around the country has the answer or a suggestion, and they will reply. Next slide. Finally, Healthy Start has developed some further training to support local workforce. It includes a short quiz and 2 training presentations. So we've got one pathway that's specialised for midwives and another for all other workforce. The training covers all key parts of the scheme and most of the areas covered in today's webinar. So it's a great thing to be able to pass on to colleagues too. You can access the training resources via the SSBC website, and the link to that is at the bottom of this slide. It's the resources section that I described at the beginning of this presentation. In addition, Nottingham County Council are also running 2 more Healthy Start webinars in April. One is on the 26th and another on the 27th. The first one on the 26th is for early years practitioners. The second one is on the 27th of April and is open to everyone. Both are 10 AM to 12 PM and online, and Kate will post information about how to register in the chat box. And final slide. So to sum up, I just want to talk about some of the ways that we can all help increase uptake of the Healthy Start scheme locally. So here are just a few suggestions from us. Using the Healthy Start promotional materials in relevant settings and on social media. Embedding information about Healthy Start eligibility into routine support offered and inductions for all new starters. Appointing 1 or more Healthy Start champions in your team or organisation. supporting families that have English as a second language to use the Healthy Start phone translation service, and perhaps also thinking about if you can make the call for them so that the charges aren't passed on to them. Working with local retailers to improve in-store promotion of Healthy Start across the city. Joining the Healthy Start email forum to ask questions, share resources and expertise, and to get support. And training staff and volunteers to support families when it comes to their time to apply. Some of these points I've covered today have been covered by the other speakers, but at SSBC we always welcome ideas for other ways we can work together to support and promote Healthy Start. There's an option to submit your ideas in the quizzes that I mentioned earlier, or you can email me, Amy or Hayley. So I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you found this useful, and I'll pass back to Amy.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Jen. That was a really sort of comprehensive overview again of kind of the resources that are available to help the workforce support families in applying and becoming aware of the scheme. And I think I would second what you said, really. I think we've obviously got quite a number of people on the call today, but I'd really sort of encourage you as much as you can to sort of share the information with your colleagues. And, you know, I guess if you're here today, you know, perhaps you can be the champion for Healthy Start within your workplace. We've got probably just over 15 minutes now, and I know there's sort of quite a lot of changes coming out and the digital scheme's potentially quite different. So this is really the opportunity for you guys in the audience to ask any queries sort of based on today's presentation around, and we'll sort of do our best to answer them. We've got a couple of questions that are in already, so I'll start with them, but if anyone else has questions, now is your chance to sort of ask. So the first question, and perhaps if I can come to sort of you, Kate, and then potentially Hayley, because I think you've probably been keeping quite a close eye on that, is we know that people are now needing to apply for the new applicants are needing to apply online. Do you know how quickly at the moment the applications are being processed? And is there a gap from when the application happens to when a family starts receiving the money? Kate, if maybe I can ask you first.
Yeah, that's fine. So my understanding is that should be happening when everything's working well, within weeks. It's certainly not within months. But we do know that there are some access issues at the moment in relation to the scheme digitally. And there is a really, there's a lot of demand obviously at the moment on the scheme. Everybody's having to come off the paper vouchers to rejoin onto the electronic scheme. And then there's lots of new people that are signing up as well. So I think, to be honest, it's more around that and people sort of getting through. We also know that there's one or two issues at the moment in relation to people that are on universal credit and applying online. There's one or two glitches. So the national team are very aware of this and are working through this. My understanding is that once people have had their claim accepted and they're seen as being eligible, after that I think it's all quite quick, but it's the actually getting onto the scheme in the first place. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Hayley.
No, I haven't got anything to add to that, Kate, but yeah, I think it's just the capacity, the volume of people that are applying at the moment. But I've heard mixture that it's taken a while, and then other people have said it's gone quite quickly, because I did ask for some feedback from our local parents.
Brilliant, thanks. And we've just had a comment actually added in the chat. So from one of the family nurses, I think, working locally, to say that they've had a client that's received their card about a week after applying when their application was successful. So that's a really positive, positive turnaround there. The second question relates to those children who have allergies that can't have cow's milk. And I think I'll probably start with that one. I, as a sort of dietitian, as a background, I sort of know a little bit about this. So a child between 0 to 1 that has a diagnosed allergy should have a specialist milk prescribed by their GP. The scheme wouldn't, sort of from 1 to 4, wouldn't allow for sort of soy milk or almond milk to be bought going forward, but it would actually allow the family to still buy fruits and vegetables. So it wouldn't be able to be used for an allergy related milk from 1 to 4 years of age, but the fruits and vegetables would still be able to be purchased with the Healthy Start. So if a child has an allergy between 0 to 1, they should be on a specialist milk from their GP. I don't know if anyone wanted to add anything to that.
No, I think that's spot on, Amy. It was I was going to say exactly the same thing. I think if you think a baby is having a reaction to cow's milk, it's all about seeing the GP, having that discussion about concerns, and getting that prescription for the alternative form of milk. Or if it's a mother breastfeeding, then it's about avoiding cow's milk in the diet, and using those vouchers to offset those costs potentially by using it on those eligible items that are on the list.
Brilliant, thanks. I've seen a question here in the chat, and Hayley, I wonder if I can come to you for this one. Someone said that they've had a few families with no recourse to public funds. How do they apply, please?
Yeah, I can put that in the chat. There is the, if they go to Healthy Start claim at dhsc.gov.uk, and then they'll be able to get an application form. They may need some support to fill that application form out.
Kate, have you had any experience of sort of people no recourse to public funds? Anything to add to that?
No, I mean, not that's been brought to me personally, but again, on that email forum that was talked about earlier, there is quite a lot of discussion around this. So again, I think, you know, yeah, there's an email that people can go through if they've got any queries about it, and I think probably talk to the national team, because it is a little bit complex. I suspect not as many people have benefited from that as was hoped when that announcement was made in Parliament about Healthy Start being extended, but it is very much there for you know, some children that do qualify. So yeah, I think if, as Hayley said, just to go through that email really.
Brilliant, thank you. There's again a comment in the comment bar, and I think it's a really kind of useful comment to make, and I think sitting on some of the Healthy Start showcases, which is the national meeting with the national team, very much reflects what other centres are saying as well. As a health visitor, you've got concerns about literacy of clients, access to IT, computers, telephone and email systems, and sort of a concern that it seems clunky, and sort of the cost of the calls. If I can maybe just from what I've heard on the Healthy Start showcases, sort of understand where they're up to at the moment, and then maybe Kate and Hayley, from your experience as well, if you sort of want to add something in. I think very much the focus at the moment is transitioning families over from the paper scheme to the digital scheme. I think there's an awareness of the concerns around sort of access issues, the cost of calls, but my kind of sense is they sort of want to transition people over, and then that is probably the next stage of them trying to address those issues. Is that how, Kate and Hayley, you have understood it? Kate,
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we are very much in a transition phase, aren't we, at the moment? So, you know, I think it's really good sort of holding this now, because people can be aware that, you know, from the 1st of April, the scheme's going to be fully digital. But obviously we've got that kind of mixed scheme going on at the moment, which can make it a little bit complex for people. And those paper vouchers can still be used as long as they're still in date. They can be used until they expire. Somebody's also just put something in the chat around vitamins and around producing the paper voucher for that, just to say that all you need to do, we're still collecting the numbers of vitamins. Certainly in the county we collect those and then reclaim those centrally, but all we need is for somebody just to show the card. And we're actually advised from the national team that you don't take details off the card. I think the reasoning behind that is obviously that card can be used for payments in shops. So the national team are advising that, you know, just to avoid any fraud or any potential issues, you don't need to photograph it, you don't need to take any details off it, you just need, someone just needs to show it you, and they can collect their vitamins on the basis of that.
Hayley, anything you want to add?
No, it's just there isn't any money taken from that card. The vitamins, yeah, they're all free.
There's another question that's come in, David, and I wonder if I can sort of come to you. It's a vitamin question. And it's, can you buy vitamins for children under 1 using this scheme?
This question probably Kate might answer on me, but so if you aren't eligible for the Healthy Start scheme, then all those locations where Healthy Start vitamins are being provided tend to also be available, have those vitamins available for purchase by those who aren't eligible if they're purchasing them at cost. Kate, correct me if I'm going off piste. But if you are part of the scheme, then you would have those child vitamin drops. I don't know if I'm not sure if that's exactly what the question is asking, but that's, I don't know if Kate's got anything to add.
Yeah, can you buy vitamins for children under 1 using the scheme? And I know, Kate, I think in county there is an ability to buy vitamins, but that's not something that for Nottingham City we've got in place at the moment, as I understand.
Yeah, that's right. In the county, we do have vitamins for people that are not eligible for the scheme, that people are able to purchase through our children's centres at cost price. So they're a lot cheaper than people would normally be able to purchase them in supermarkets and what have you. But that is only in the county. That's not available in the city. There's also something in the chat around, can families get vitamins from pharmacies, as families are being turned away and told that they can only collect from a health centre? So the site that was shared in terms of where vitamins are available from, that's shared nationally, I think there's a bit of a problem with always trying to keep that up to date. I think what we'd want to hear is that if people are going and not finding that they can't get vitamins from somewhere that they were expected to get them from, I think it'd be really, really useful to hear that, because you know, we can then be thinking about making sure that site is up to date. So I'm speaking for city and county here, that we need to know that when people go to collect those vitamins that they can collect them from that site. So I think, you know, if we're hearing that, we need to hear where people are hearing that, and then we can address that on the updating the site.
Brilliant, thanks. There's another question here about how is Nottingham promoting local Healthy Start vitamins alongside the digital voucher scheme? David, I don't know what sort of the plans are.
Yeah, so I think so I suppose 2 aspects. There's obviously those ideas of how can we get the message out there via social media and other routes, and that's obviously an important way of promoting the Healthy Start vitamins. But I think the key way of promoting Healthy Start vitamins is through those everyday contacts that all our health professionals have, both from maternity to our health visiting teams and to any other contacts that come in between, is that constant reminder and question about, have you checked if you're eligible? Have you had a look? Do you need some help with any of the forms? That's going to be that constant plugging away that's going to make the real difference, because, you know, trying to get social media messages to this target population probably isn't going to necessarily work in that sense. And one of the schemes that in Nottingham City Council and Nottinghamshire County Council, alongside the maternity departments in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire, have been working on, and Kate has been leading some of this work, is around providing a sample of Healthy Start vitamins to all pregnant women, to raise awareness of the Healthy Start vitamins to all pregnant women in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire, so that there's an opening conversation there to have about Healthy Start vitamins. So that scheme is underway, I believe, Kate, now. So pregnant women should be receiving a sample of Healthy Start vitamins, which will enable some of those conversations and raise awareness.
Yeah, that's right. And people are receiving those at booking. So they'll then have a bottle. This is universal. Everybody will receive a bottle of Healthy Start vitamins. But evidently then there's a real push with some information around Healthy Start and a QR code with a link to the site to really encourage people there to sign up to the scheme. Because I think, you know, that point in maternity is so important, isn't it, to get people signed up then, you know, as early as possible. So yeah, hopefully that will help we'll be monitoring that quite closely to see whether that has an impact on the uptake of vitamins generally.
Brilliant. Hayley, I wonder if I can turn to you just to answer a couple of questions that have been posted in the chat, just around the practicalities really of using the new card from what you sort of know and understand. So one of the questions is, how are people stopped from paying for a full food shop with the card?
Yeah, I did read that. Is that, yeah. As far as I'm aware, it's just, it wouldn't go through. I don't know if you can answer that, Kate.
I can't, sorry, was that a question that was in the chat, or sorry, just remind me of the specific question.
Yeah, so how are people stopped from paying for a full food shop with the card?
Oh, I see. So just paying for all sorts of different items with it, is that what you're saying? Some of which aren't Healthy Start. Yeah. I don't really know. I mean, again, I think the onus, that the Healthy Start units have been very clear about saying that the onus is back on the person that is using the card rather than on the retailer. So, you know, and I think there's a general feeling that people do tend to use it very responsibly. So I think there may well be times when items are purchased that, you know, are not necessarily Healthy Start items, but that they're really sort of pushing that onus back onto the users of the card rather than retailers themselves.
There's just another question there. Can the card be used for shopping online? I don't believe it can. No.
No, that's my understanding.
No, it can't. It can't. And again, this has been raised unless there are exceptional circumstances. And I think, again, those would have to be raised with the unit. So if somebody is saying, you know, I can't go out, I literally can't go out and do my shopping, I have to do my shopping online, then that would be looked at as a specific case, but it's only in very rare cases.
Brilliant. I'm just sort of aware of time. So what I am going to commit to is after this session, we'll have a look at the chat and we'll have another look at the question and answer box. And we'll probably put together a little bit of a post-event question and answer sheet. So all of those answers are available and we can sort of signpost you to the right place to get the answers. So if you do have any final questions, maybe pop them in the chat. And like I say, we will make sure that you get responses to those. I really just wanted to finish with a big thank you, first of all, to the speakers today for doing such fantastic presentations. You know, it's something I'm really committed to in terms of making sure as many families as possible benefit from that. And, you know, you've explained why that's important. You've explained how to do it. And, you know, I think that's been fab. Thanks everyone very much for attending. I think, you know, on the ground, you're all key people to make sure that families are aware of the scheme. So I absolutely would encourage you to be including it as part of your contacts and your conversations with families. We will be sending out a evaluation form as a follow-on from the event and would really, really appreciate any feedback. Any additional questions that sort of come to you after the event, please do feel free to drop them in an email to us, and we hope to sort of continue to work with you all to support Healthy Start across Nottingham. And thanks very much to Kate for joining us as well from Nottinghamshire.
You're welcome. And I've popped in the chat as well and also in the Q&A the dates of those webinars that we are doing in the county. So if there are people on the call that are really interested in what we're doing at a county level, then please come along and join those.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.